And we're joined on Absolutely Famous today by a regular rugby analyst, former Marlborough and King Country loose forward Greg Brimble from the beautiful New South Wales seaside town of Nowra. Brims, how are you, mate?
Yeah, going good, thanks, Johnny. Yep, big weekend of sport behind us, and still got plenty to come. So I'm pretty excited. Yeah, I wish the standard of the rugby was a bit better, but if you're a sports fan in general, it's pretty good at the moment. The AFL competition's brilliant. The NRL competition's heating up, and so there's a lot happening around the place. Looking forward to it, mate.
Yeah, well, and the caravans are still racing out the door just as quick, even though the weather's cooled down a bit at Jaco Nowra.
Yeah, I think people might be. I think people might be wondering about whether they should be going out caravanning and camping in this weather at the moment, mate. I tell you what, it's bloody freezing here at Nowra. It's the temperature's really dropped. Winter's hitting. It's still only autumn, mate. So I don't know what's going on with it.
Yeah, well,
I'll stay home in my bar with the heater on, I think, mate.
Good on you. Yeah, well, it's supposed to get down to 7 degrees tonight on the Gold Coast, which is ridiculous.
Oh, that's no good for you guys. You need to toughen up a bit.
We've softened right up. Plenty to talk about in rugby.
We go swimming at 7 degrees.
Plenty to talk about in rugby, Brims, and Super Rugby Pacific. There's a lot wrong with it, but there were some good games in the weekend. We'll talk about what might be wrong with it later on, but almost a huge upset with Moana Pacifica almost pipping the Blues, and the Blues were bloody lucky to get away with that.
Look, I'm not the biggest Auckland fan. The only soft bit of me towards Auckland is the fact that Leon McDonald coaches them. But I suffered some fairly heavy defeats at the hands of Auckland in the past, so I've just taken a set on them, mate. So I was actually cheering Moana Pacifica on, and of course Aaron Major's team. It would have been good to see them get the chocolates on the day, but they just weren't good enough at the end, were they? But what a terrific game of rugby that was. It was so good to see those Pacific Island teams going well at the moment.
Yeah, 31-30, that was awesome. Yeah, you did right about the Pacific Island teams. They've just added something that desperately needed, along with a lot more. But for Moana Pacifica, for Fiji and Drua to get up and beat the Hurricanes 27-24 in Suva, that was brilliant, and a packed house.
Well, they're really competitive, aren't they? Fiji and Drua at home, they get a wonderful support there at Suva at the National Stadium, and also at Churchill Park in Lautoka. They're really popular over there, and that Drua, they're a hard team to beat at home. I'm just so happy for them, mate. I'm happy for Pacific Island Rugby. I'm happy for the Drua. And I'm happy that we've got them in the competition, because quite frankly, if they weren't in the competition, it'd be even worse than it is at the moment, mate.
Well, yeah, it couldn't be much worse. I mean, it was really sad watching that great game up in Auckland with there might have been, a couple of hundred people there. It's a disgrace, really, and I'd be so embarrassed if I was an administrator.
Yeah, something's got to happen, mate. I mean, it's you and I have spoken, over the phone and messaging each other over the past months about the state of the game and what can be done, and I've got a few ideas of my own on it, as I know you have. But one thing I know is nothing changes if nothing changes, and some changes need to be made, mate. It just has to be, because this is a competition that's dying in front of our eyes, and I can remember going to Super Rugby games back at the old Athletic Park watching the Hurricanes play on a Saturday afternoon in windy Wellington Athletic Park, and Athletic Park was full, mate. You couldn't. It was standing room only around the banks, and you look at the crowds that they're getting now, and it's really disappointing. I expect we'll speak about some of the numbers in comparison with other sports shortly, but really disappointing, John.
Yeah, a lot of people say to me, times have changed. Not many people not as many people interested in rugby. In 1985, when I was living in Christchurch, I went to one of the greatest provincial games ever. 55,000 people watched Auckland take the Ranfurly Shield off Canterbury. Now that was 50,000 that's what you get for big games every time there in the mid-80s at Lancaster Park. Now, the same happened in the NRL and the AFL back then too, but the huge difference is it's still happening now, and they haven't changed a lot.
Well, that's the difference, and we've had another sport come onto the front line as well in the A-League, competing with the NRL and the AFL and the Rugby Union, and you know the A-League numbers are attendance numbers are higher than the Rugby Union numbers now, and I'll throw some figures at you, I suppose now, but I hark back to the Super Round in Melbourne that I was fortunate enough to be at on day one. Now they reckon they got somewhere between 30 and optimistically 50,000 at most through the gates attending the Super Round, and that was Friday, Saturday, Sunday rugby in Melbourne. Don't ask me why it was Melbourne, but just say optimistically it was 50,000 tops. Now next door at the MCG, they had two games there and they got a total of 154,000 spectators at two AFL games, as compared to the 50,000 we got at 8 Super Rugby games at Amy Park. And that same weekend, and this is how crazy it was scheduling Super Round when it was in Melbourne, they got 208,000 over the weekend at the old ranger Ed Sheeran playing his guitar. Like, I can't believe that, the numbers. For one, I can't believe why they'd hold Super Round in Melbourne in the AFL Heartland with other events big events on the same weekend. It's beyond me, and it's really, really disappointing to see this and the state of the game at the moment, John.
And that wonderful Super Round on the weekend here not just down the road from us in Brisbane at Suncorp Stadium. Nearly 150,000 people, sold out, as was the AFL Super Round. All the matches sold out, every single one of them.
That's right, and the opening night of Super Round of Super Rugby of the Super Round in Melbourne on the Friday night, they had 15,000 spectators there, mate. There was more seagulls there.
Yeah, there still is. I think I'm really glad that Wayne Smith, former All Black coach and Black Ferns coach, came out. Former Black Ferns coach too, came out during the week and said he actually switched off for the first time in his life a super match. Now, it was that game, the Western Force versus the Highlanders, which is a pretty ordinary game, but the performance, as he said, Nick Berry just had his arm out the whole time playing advantage. As soon as you play advantage, the game's effectively dead. There was something like 5 yellow cards and bugger all rugby. It's just, someone needs to grab these guys by the scruff of the neck and say, hey, this is an entertainment industry. We didn't come here to watch you.
Yeah, that's right. And there's just so much wrong with that at the moment. I mean, harking back to the Force Hurricanes, Highlanders game, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah. I mean, two very low, the lowest, of the New Zealand teams versus the lowest of the Australian teams, pretty much, and it was never going to be a spectacle, but it still could be a good competition, between two teams that are capable enough of producing good football. But when you're playing this constant, I think there's two things wrong with it. The way they constantly play the advantage, but they play it for so long too, John. You can play the advantage for a minute. And I mean, I just don't see the advantage to the team that's won the advantage in letting it go for a minute. There should be like a timeline on it, or something, or a set amount of phases of play where they call it off. The other thing, John, which really upsets me at the moment, is they get the advantage, they play for the penalty. 9 times out of 10, what do? They kick it into the corner. and there we go, and they get a throw in, and there we go, another predictable, drive off the line out, another try to, guess who, the hooker. This is killing the sport as a spectacle. And I think that if you're going to kick it into the corner there, it should be the opposition throw to the line out, because these driving mauls are killing the sport. Mate, on Friday night, I was sitting up here, I fell asleep I never fall asleep during a Super Rugby game. I fell asleep, I dropped my rum and coke. It was disaster.
But yeah, that's a shambles when that starts to happen.
And like you say, the professor, he turned over to the lines of the Serengeti and watched that, because he couldn't stand watching Nick Berry's performance anymore. And they only play to the rules, I suppose. But it's just a mess at the moment, mate.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think all the parties need to get together in a room and say, hey guys and girls, we're actually in the entertainment business. We're not here to impart our bloody dictatorial attitudes on people. We're here to entertain people, because they're surrounded by other sports that are genuinely entertaining with genuine atmosphere, and I'm afraid rugby, not for the first time, is just so far behind. And it's a shame, because every now and then there's some fantastic games of rugby in that super competition.
Well, there is, and we saw a couple of them on the weekend. That fantastic Chiefs Crusaders game. That was just the other weekend was just so good, just such a good competition. But if I may, John, a touch on what else is wrong with Super Rugby at the moment, and it's the format of the competition, mate. It's ridiculous that a team plays every team once, and then some of the teams again. Now I don't get that. There's an imbalance there. Surely there's an advantage to someone somewhere else in that. But I don't get that. There's 12 teams in the competition, and at the moment, 8 of those teams make the playoffs. There's only 4 teams. There's only 4 teams at the end of the regular season that don't get a chance at the playoffs. How ridiculous is that?
Yeah.
Surely they've got to cut it back to a maximum of 8 teams, with the first 2 teams getting the week off, and 3 playing 6, 4 playing 5. Etc. They've got to change the format of it, because it's so predictable. It only gets exciting when you get into the second round of the playoffs. And I don't. It's like everybody gets a medal, everybody gets a participation ribbon in this. It's just crazy, mate. And that's killing it. I think there's too many games. I think every team should play 1 game against each team. That means they play 11 games. There's too much rugby on at the moment. There's just too much of it, and the standards not there in Super Rugby. And I know it's a World Cup year, but if you can't get up for a World Cup year as a player, then nothing will motivate you, mate. But geez, you wound me up now, mate. I was all nice and calm before this, and I start talking about this again. But I tell you what, it just bloody annoys me, mate. Just annoys me.
Oh yeah, I'm flabbergasted. It's right up there with the World Cup outfit doing the World Cup draw in 2020. Who's the lunatic who organised that? So you've got 2 of the best teams can't make the semi-final. That's really clever.
Well, there's a fair bit happens with form in 4 years, as we've seen. Or 3 years, as we've seen. There is so much wrong with the administration of our sport at the moment, John. Look, I'm going to nominate myself and you to get it fixed up, I think, because we need somebody in there with some passion and some good ideas. We just need someone to back us financially, but we should start up a rebel competition. I'm all for that. I've got the headquarters here. I'm in, mate.
I'll tell you what, a rebel competition in the Southern Hemisphere is right for the picking. If someone came along, I'd be right behind it.
It is. Twiggy Forrest should have a crack at that, mate, because what's happening at the moment is terrible. Nobody's watching it. The player numbers, apart from the women, are dropping. TV audiences are falling. It's that's going to affect sponsorship. You're not going to be able to get sponsorship. You're not going to be able to attract big paying TV channels to broadcast your game. I mean, it's going backwards. It's just oh god, it's frustrating.
It's going backwards in the southern hemisphere. It looks pretty good in the northern hemisphere. They're still getting great crowds to their club footy over there. But on a positive note, Brims, I love watching the Chiefs play this year. They've got a freedom of spirit about them, and that try to All Black prospect and winger Imani Narawa, really, that reminded me of Sivivatu or Joe Rokokoko in their prime. He is some talent, that guy.
He is, mate. He's got some wheels, isn't he? He's only 24 as well, but he's it seems like he's been around for ages. He's really performing this year. And I was looking at some of the stats on Imani Narawa, and he's fifth equal in the try scoring this year, and he's sixth in defenders beaten in the whole competition. And you look at the number of players that are playing in that competition. He's really performing. He's also up there on the try scoring as well. He's like fifth, I think, on the try scoring list, mate. So he's a real talent. He is, and he's the sort of player, I think, with that X factor, John, that we'll be looking for the World Cup. He's that Nehi Milner Scudder that we launched on the world. Nobody knew about him, and I think we need something like that. Whether that's Imani Narawa or Sean Stevenson, there needs to be a player in there somewhere that brings the X factor and is unknown as well, John.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just doubt whether they've got room for both of them in the World Cup squad. I think they'll both play at some stage in the Rugby Championship in the lead up. I hope they do. But I don't know about the World Cup, because you've got a real bottleneck there with, you got Mark Talia, you got Caleb Clark, Will Jordan back, fantastic, even though I hope he plays at fullback, and Lester Ganuku. So it's going to be a big call to pick more than one bolter there.
Well, I've picked my six. Now this is assuming as well, John, that they take 33 to the World Cup, which I think is the number that the IRB has said is that you have in your squad. It's up from 31 at the last Rugby World Cup. So if they take 33, the split is likely to be 17 forwards and 16 backs. Now, if you just take the 16 backs, there's going to be 3 halfbacks. There's going to be 2 first 5/8s, and there's probably going to be 5 midfielders and 6 outside backs. And I think that's the likely balance. And there's a number of players in there that can play in midfield and outside backs and at first 5. So my 6, given that that's the split, and I'm pretty sure it'll be 17 and 16. My 6 outside backs would be Lester Ganuku, Mark Talia. Both of them are in red hot form. Lester Ganuku is second. He's number 2 on the try scoring list this year in the Super competition. Mark Talia, of course. I mean, he's in there, and he's deserved his place. I've got Caleb Clark in there, but in the absence of Sevu Reece, because Sevu Reece won't be playing. And that's rounded out with Will Jordan, Damien McKenzie, and one of, as you touched on, either Sean Stevenson or Imani Narawa. Now I think it'll be one of those in there, and that's assuming that they stick with Geordie Barrett in the midfield. So I think, and also that they name Beauden Barrett as a first 5. So they could name Beauden Barrett as an outside back, and Damon McKenzie as the backup first 5, or vice versa. I don't think it matters too much, because they'll both be in the squad anyway, I think, and they bring goal kicking ability, and they bring unpredictability and a bit of X factor as well. So I think both those players will be there. But the interesting one will be who is that bolter there, and it's probably going to mean that Stephen Perifetta misses out. I would think.
Yeah, I don't think Stephen's a good player, but I don't think he's in the class of these two boys. And well, it'll be interesting, all right. Now I've gone for the other bolter. I've got an idea who might be Cameron Roygard at halfback because he offers something completely different to the incumbent three that are incumbent four with TJ Perenara injured at the moment.
Well, statistically speaking, and I do like a statistic, John. Statistically speaking, Cam Roygard is the Hurricanes halfback is the best halfback, New Zealand halfback in the competition. He's fourth on the try scoring list as well in the Super Rugby competition this year with 7 tries. He's actually, and this surprises me. It shouldn't do, but it does surprise me. He's 7th in defenders beaten from the halfback position, and 3rd in offload. So I think that shows what a good turn of pace he's got if he's beating those defenders, and it also shows that we've got a running halfback. And we haven't had that running halfback for a while. And I know you're a big fan of the running halfback, and I know you're a big fan of Flau Whakatava as well, who's that bigger body and likes to have a crack. But Cam Roygard, he is in dynamic form this year, mate, and I would pick him as one of my bolters. I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him in there, mate.
Yeah, well, I watched Noah Holtham, of course, and just so good to see finally the Crusaders have got a halfback that runs. He made a couple of great breaks there, and really good talent. The big game this weekend, Brims, of course, is in Christchurch. The Crusaders versus the Blues. Me being a pretty fervent Crusader fan, having been born down there, I can't see them losing to the Blues down there.
Well, I hope not, and I'll refer back to my thoughts on the Blues earlier on in this segment. But no, I think it's going to be way too cold for them down in Christchurch, mate. Those Aucklanders, they don't like the cold. Those Jaffers up there, they don't like the cold at all. So I think the boys will stick it to them at Orange Theory Stadium down there, and I hope they do. But it's got all the hallmarks of a terrific game, and it's a bit of a must-win game for both of these teams as well, because they'll both be wanting home ground advantage going into the playoffs. I think there's only three or four more rounds to go, maybe 3 rounds to go. So they'll be wanting to cement their place in that top 4 to get home ground advantages going into the playoff series, and they both should. And I think the Hurricanes will probably drop out of that top 4 and have to be playing away, given that the Brumbies and the Chiefs are certainties for the playoff series.
Yeah, and I think this game will be another snapshot of what Super Rugby could look like if it's organised and run properly, because I'm expecting a fantastic contest, hopefully a full house down there in Christchurch, and and go the Crusaders, really.
Go the Crusaders, go the South Islanders. That's what I like to say. But it'll be a terrific game and some mouth-watering matchups there in the loose forwards and in the front rows as well. It's going to be it's going to be interesting and to see if the Blues persist with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck in the midfield, which I don't think they will, because I think on the weekend it just showed why he's going back to the NRL and why he won't make the Rugby World Cup squad for this year, mate.
Yeah, totally agree, Brims. Great to talk to you, mate, as always on rugby. Super analysis, and love your work down there in Nowra, and look forward to chatting to you soon about, hopefully by that time, there'll be some changes in the wind for the game we love so much.
Well, I hope so, mate, because we're both passionate about it, aren't we? And I think we're only we're symptomatic of the bulk of rugby fans and Super Rugby fans out there on both sides of the Tasman, mate. And I don't think, it's like I said before, nothing changes if nothing changes. And some big changes need to be made to our game. And looking forward to that happening. But it needs a clean out at the top as well, mate. The fish heads need a bit of a clean out. So
thanks,
we'll
Brims.
see what happens.
Lovely to talk to you, mate.
Cheers, mate.